You're watching ChillyBoy Productions. I'm Larry ChillyBoy Chillson, and this is my review for The Mother. Now, before we get into this review, make sure to go ahead and click that subscribe button down below so that you can chill with me on each and every one of my latest videos. The Mother is a mystery action film from Netflix starring Jennifer Lopez, directed by Nikki Caro. While fleeing from dangerous assailants, an assassin comes out of hiding to protect her daughter she left earlier in life. So, yes, we are back with another audio style movie review. Yeah, mainly because my camera is currently out of commission, though should be coming very shortly. But I actually received quite positive feedback when I did this style of review for Creed 3. And I really wanted to talk about this film. So the film, clearly, stars Mother herself. Now they call No, not RuPaul, Miss Jennifer Lopez, but also co-stars Amari Hardwick, Joseph Fiennes, Paul Raci, Gail Garcia Bernal, and Lucy Paez. Now, you may have recognized the name of the director, Nikki Caro, as she actually has quite the directing resume. Most recently, and maybe most infamously, she did direct Mulan. Yeah, the 2020 live action remake. But she's also directed The Zookeeper's Wife, the highly underseen and underrated McFarland USA, and Whale Rider, amongst other projects. To combine this female director who clearly has a penchant for female stories, particularly, with Jennifer Lopez returning to a straight up action film, yeah, I was hyped, and I actually thought that the trailer looked pretty awesome for this, not gonna lie. And ultimately, while I don't think The Mother reinvents the wheel or does anything overly extraordinary, I think it's a very solid film and one I enjoyed watching. So let's go ahead and jump into the positives first. The biggest positive for me is actually just the base story. Now, I'm not talking about the screenplay, because we're actually going to get into that in the negatives, but the story itself is actually quite intriguing, and it introduces themes of grief, of a mother's nature, blended families so well amongst this action heavy set piece. We get a hero at the forefront who is very different from so many of the other style of mother heroes we've gotten. Yes, we've seen Halle Berry protecting kids time and time again in a variety of wigs. But this mother is protective but cold. She is a tough biche, not just because she can shoot a gun and take on thugs. She is hardened to her core for a great deal of this film, and it actually made for a more fascinating watch for me personally. And while the action is not amazing per se, I did find it entertaining to watch. I was fully invested in the story that was presented to me. And I found myself caring about the plight of these characters, which ultimately is kind of the base level of fail or pass, and the film passed on that front. And with that story, I enjoyed that this film felt like it had legitimate stakes. And a big part of that is the fact that I did care about the plight of these characters. However, there was this element of danger. There was stakes, which is a bit refreshing because in so many action films recently, it felt like there weren't really stakes, that the main characters were never truly in danger. But I have to say, The Mother does a nice enough job of elevating that. I think Jennifer Lopez is actually quite good in this role, which is saying something because it is a very stoic role. So I do think a lot of folks might not think much of her performance, but I think she's able to convey this really hardened, tough woman who has turned off any emotional feeling, but every now and then she lets those cracks through and she lets the warmth or the pain shine through. And I think the mixture really showcases Lopez at large. And I have to say, I was so excited to see Paul Raci on my screen once again. He was the standout for his Academy Award winning performance in The Sound of Metal, and he's wonderful here, and I hope this just continues to open the door for him. But I have to say, in many ways, Lucy Paez is the scene stealer. She was fantastic in this film and quite the surprise for me. A great youth performance from her. Now, Joseph Fiennes is also really strong in a limited role. So then, what doesn't work so well when it comes to the mother? Well, as I mentioned and alluded to earlier, the screenplay is far and away the weakest aspect to this film. There's quite a bit of really cringy dialogue in this film. Oftentimes, these characters and their interactions don't feel natural, and honestly, the daughter character in this film alludes to such, but I don't think the film itself had quite enough self-awareness to realize, well, that's kind of what's going on in a lot of these interpersonal connections. I also have to say that the pacing is just a bit off. The first act and the third act are very action oriented. They have a lot going on. You're constantly moving. But that second act, which tries to really connect you to this mother-daughter relationship that we're supposed to care about, that is very integral to the story, it comes to a complete halt. It's almost a completely different film within a bigger action film. And I understand the necessity for what happens in that second act, but I really do think they needed to sprinkle something else in there to really move the story forward. We have a lot of heavier topics, but they're not explored nearly deep enough to warrant this much time. There aren't breakthroughs, there aren't big character revelations. Instead, we kind of feel like it just comes to a screeching halt. And while the action is fun, it is hard not to compare it to some of the amazing action we've gotten on the big screen recently. Yeah, there are a lot of edits in this action. Not so bad that you can't tell what's happening or that you ever get disoriented. However, there's definitely a few too many cuts in each and every action set piece. And if you're coming here for our Gael Garcia Bernal, which I know a lot of us are, he's hardly in the film. I mean, they almost waste him. He's great in the very small role he does have. He shines for that little bit of screen time. But trust me when I say, it is, in fact, a little bit of screen time. So overall, The Mother doesn't break the wheel, it doesn't reinvent the wheel, and it doesn't really bring all that much new content to the table. In many ways, it fits in line with a lot of the mid-level action films that Netflix has brought to the surface. In many ways, it does fit in line with many of the mid-tier action films that Netflix has brought to audiences. But in saying that, I do think it is near the top of those mid-tier action films. One that I think is certainly worth 2 hours of your time to check out over Mother's Day weekend. It gives a nice, empowering story about mothers for the holiday with some solid performances, some fun action, and some heart thrown in for good measure. I say give The Mother a watch this weekend. I don't think you'll regret watching it for free at home through your Netflix subscription. So that was my review for The Mother. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, go ahead, click like down below and subscribe to the channel so that you are always up to date on all of my latest videos. Also, join in on the discussion. Are you excited to check out The Mother? Let me know your thoughts either in the comment section down below, or you can hit me up on Twitter. I love you all so much for your continued support. Mwah! Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.